Welcome to the season 4 rewatch of Real Housewives of Salt Lake City. We are going to rewatch all 19 episodes of Salt Lake City to, one, remind ourselves of what has transpired post Jen Shaw's time on the show. Two, see how things have shifted since last season between all the women. Three, relive the hilarious belly laughing moments that only the ladies of Salt Lake City can give us. And lastly, and most importantly, reveal all the ways that Heather Gay is the true villain in this franchise. Just as a side note, this is all lighthearted and for entertainment purposes only, as I'm sure you all are aware, but I just need to remind people sometimes. And before we start on each episode, I wanted to cover a few things. One, I'm going to give you all some insight into my watching experience since season 1. So you have some context of the way I'm perceiving things as I rewatch season 4. 2, we're going to walk through all the taglines for season 4. And third, as we walk through each tagline, we're going to recap each housewife's history on the show to date. Okay. First things first, my experience watching Salt Lake City. I started watching from season 1. So this franchise, I was very excited for. It actually revived, it re-energized my Bravo passion because it was starting to fade out. And I think the timing of Salt Lake City had a lot to do with it because it came out during COVID. It was the last Housewife franchise that aired during COVID where they hadn't been wearing masks yet because they were filming before COVID started. So that was like, I don't know, I think that impacted me a little bit in the way I watch. I was like, this is the last thing we got. But also, one major thing for this franchise is the religion aspect. I've never had any experience with Mormonism or really know much about it at all. So I've been learning about it since season 1. And I find it to be very interesting for me personally because growing up, my mother was very active in the church. She started the church that we went to. Well, she was one of the founding members. She wasn't like a cult leader or anything. And I just have a very complicated, I don't know, complicated. There's a lot of layers and dynamics that go into my spiritual connection and religion and all that stuff. So I find the religion part of this franchise to be an added layer that brings more to this show. So I was all in right from the beginning. But then before the show even started, I started Googling the cast members. That was a huge mistake because immediately, if you Googled Mary Cosby back then, before the show even started, it was so scary. I remember closing my laptop right away. I was like, they are not doing this to us. All the cult stuff, there were accusations and allegations of like foul play when it came to the death of her grandmother. And don't forget, she married her step granddaddy. The grandmother's body was exhumed, by the way. They haven't talked about that on the show yet, but I knew this before going into season 1. I had been terrified of Mary Cosby the whole time, just wondering when are people going to find out about her church? And then, it starts to come out later on. But oh my gosh, those were crazy times. I'm not like frightened of Mary anymore, like I used to be, but she does make me nervous a little bit. I won't lie. Anyways, also another part of my experience with Salt Lake City is I interviewed Murillo Bueno. And if you're like, who is that? That is Jen Shaw's close friend slash former assistant who still currently runs her social media for her while she is serving time in prison. Our first interview was April 19th, 2022. I'll put a link to that in the show notes. That episode, that interview took place right after season 2 aired. And I always felt weird about Heather Gay at that time, but like after interviewing Murillo, because don't forget, Murillo actually worked for Heather Gay before working for Jen Shaw. And then like I don't know what their current status is now. I assume that they still are not on speaking terms. It's just kind of wild. It gives you a different perspective into who Heather Gay is. But I also interviewed Murillo again on September 19th, 2023. I'll put a link to that as well. That interview, I published that the same day that season 4, episode 3 aired. So when we get to that, we'll have to like revisit this interview. I don't remember everything that was said, so it'll be fun for me to also go back and watch those. So, anyways, moving on, more about my experience with Salt Lake City. I have interacted with almost all of the housewives on this show, and to be honest, it kind of ruined things for me. For example, I knew about, and this is a rewatch, so there will be spoilers. If you don't want those, now's the time to go. But I knew that Monica was reality Von Tease before it was aired. And so the entire season, I had to pretend like I didn't know while I'm like tweeting about the show, live and things like that, doing my podcast. It, I didn't want to I didn't want to spoil it for anyone, so I was keeping it in, but it did change the way that I watched the show. I think it would have been better if I didn't know. And this fourth wall concept is a very strange thing for me. I'm still trying to navigate the whole fourth wall in the context of reviewing these shows because I have to balance my nosiness with my judginess appropriately and properly. So going forward, I am going to try not to interact with the cast that much because I don't want to be influenced. And that's not to say like we may interact here and there, but I'm not going to be like, tell me all the detail. If anything, I'll be like, don't tell me. Don't tell me. I don't want to know. So let's see. Let's go into taglines. So just as a note, they didn't start showing the taglines in season 4 until episode 2. And so I'm going to go in order that they do their taglines. The first one is Lisa Barlow. Her tagline is, I'm on a mission to serve Lisa, and I love that for myself. I love that too. I just need to preface and let everyone know that Lisa Barlow is my favorite housewife of all time. I literally asked myself, what would Lisa Barlow do when I am trying to solve life problems? I know she is polarizing for some, and I'm not the kind of person who's going to get mad at someone if they don't like the same housewife as me. Like, I am still friends with people who don't like Lisa Barlow. Like, it's not that deep, but I still love her. Like, they could tell me almost anything about her, and I'm like, I still love her. Not almost anything, but I don't know. You never know. I actually did not like her in the beginning of season 1 at all. I'm like, oh, she's going to be the worst. But after the season 1 reunion, I turned into a hardcore Lisa Barlow stan and I never turned back. But like I said, you never know. Things change. So we'll see how season 5 goes. But I'm a Lisa Barlow gal. I love her. Okay, let's move on. So next we have Heather Gay. I own a beauty empire, so I don't need any of your lip service. Shut up. I think Heather Gay is the phoniest person on this entire cast. I think Heather has been playing a long, calculated, and manipulative game, and her demise will be when Jen Shaw gets out of prison, is back on the show, and spills all of Heather Gay's dirty little secrets. Also, I think Heather is very aware of my disdain for her. May have been under the influence of a microdose of shrooms at BravoCon 2022, but I could have swore Heather Gay gave me a death stare at an after party I was at after the Bravos. I think it was the Friday night. Then at BravoCon 2023, I crossed paths with Heather Gay backstage, and she dropped her phone at the exact moment we crossed paths. I just kept walking because it was too weird. Anyways, let's move on. Monica. I keep my friends close, but my secrets closer. Yes, we know. Like I said, this is a rewatch, so there will be spoilers. Monica is no longer on the show because she turned out to be Reality Von Tease, the internet troll that I actually had interactions with before she was even on the cast. Reality Von Tease is the first Instagram account that I've ever restricted on Instagram ever. Well, yeah, no, ever. I restricted some after that, but I remember that was like a big deal for me because I'm like, I don't restrict people. I don't block people. I didn't even unfollow people. I still don't really unfollow people. But I was like, I gotta restrict this person because they are scaring me. I'll never forget those times. Those were scary times online. Oh my gosh. Also, because of Reality Von Tease, I got my very own serial cyber stalker slash predator. It's been like over 3 years now. But I talked about that on a prior Patreon episode, so I'll put a link for you guys to check that out if you want. I also met Monica at BravoCon in Vegas in 2023. It was a very awkward interaction because, like I said, I had to pretend like I didn't know she was Reality Von Tease because it wasn't revealed yet on the show at the time. And I also found out after meeting her at BravoCon that she had blocked me on Twitter when I don't recall ever interacting with her account at all. So that also kind of scared me. If there's no like prompt for me to be blocked by someone, I find that to be creepy. Just like Craig Conover on Instagram, just like Lisa Rinna. And who's the other one? There's another one. I can't remember. Oh, wait. Oh, Billy Lee. I can't remember. Billy Lee from Vanderpump Rules. Oh my gosh. That was funny. Okay, let's move on. Next is Meredith Marks. In a town full of dirty lies, everyone can use a bath. Like I said, I used to despise Meredith Marks for 3 full seasons. It wasn't until this season, season 4, where I did a complete 180, and now I'm basically obsessed with Meredith. She may be in the running to be a legend, very similar to the Countess Luann de Lesseps. We will see. Angie Katsanevas. I may be Greek, but don't expect an olive branch from me. So Angie surprised me. She has been giving it her all and essentially understood the Housewives assignment. I think she deserves to be on this cast, and I really want to see that wealth, honey. Show us the money, honey. Take us to Greece. Bring us on a sick yacht. Actually, Lisa Barlow, she loves everything maritime. Bring us on a yacht. That's what we need. Okay, last but not least, Whitney Rose. Having faith in myself is the only religion I need. Okay, so Whitney, I despised Whitney when she was a part of Bad Weather, but I think I like Whitney now. Once she started sticking up for herself against Heather, I think that's when things shifted for me. But her and Lisa get into it in season 5, so I don't know how I'll feel after season 5. But as of right now, at the end of season 4, I like Whitney. I also met her at BravoCon, and she said she knew who I was, and it freaked me out a little bit. I was like, "Shoot, does she know I'm not supposed to be in this room right now?" Just kidding. Or maybe not. I don't know. Anyways, I needed to get this out before we go into full episode rewatches. So I'm glad we got all of that out of the way. Next time, we will cover season 4, episode 1,